Well, hey, welcome back. How lovely to see you again. Please excuse the mess. I've been doing stuff with brush pens and ink. It's been kind of fun. I'll have to show you that at some point. However, in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to start doing a little bit of code, the smallest amount to create our SVG file that we're going to be using going forwards for the rest of the course. For a little bit of a recap, we recently used Inkscape to create, well, just draw a single line, and then we saved that line, opened up the SVG file to discover that it's just a single text file that we could then mess around with and change all the values to create our own new SVG file. So we have the file that we created by hand, and it looks a little bit like this. So we had the file that went, hey, I'm an SVG file, I've got a width and a height, here's a group of lines, and then we drew those lines by hand, we wrote them, put in all the coordinates, and then it went, that's the end of the group, that's the end of the SVG file. We ended up with this. So what we're going to do is code. Programming languages are really good at dealing with text. It's one of the most basic things they can ever do. So we're going to go in code. This is the header of our SVG file. This is the tail of our SVG file, and then we're going to use some code to create these lines, stick them all together, and save them out as a text file, which we're going to call an SVG file, and that's the thing we can send to the plotter. We're going to do that in HTML and JavaScript because in the future we're going to want to extend that to use a canvas and then be able to interact with it. And then, once I've shown you all of that and we've got up and running with that, if you want to stick around for a little bit longer, we're going to do it again in a couple of other coding languages. But let's just crack on and make our first SVG file. All right, let's get orientated to start off with. So over here, this is the camera I'm talking to you on because I'm tired of my laptop camera just looking straight up my nose all the time. So when I'm talking to you here, my screen is here where all the code is. I'm not ignoring you. I'm looking at the screen over here. On this camera, this is recording my voice, I hope, and sometimes I'll chat to you over here, I think. So let's get on over here. Here's my downloads folder. Here's the test SVG that we did from last time. And I'm just going to drag it over into Firefox over here. I'm in private browsing because I find that Firefox is a lot better in private browsing for not caching files. So when we change code and then I open up Firefox again, it's all nice and fresh. I found with Chrome that sometimes it hangs on to older versions, so I prefer doing it like this. Alrighty, let's have a look in here, a recap. So what we're talking about is here is our SVG file, a little bit up the top here, but it's saying, hey, I'm an SVG file. This is the head text we're talking about. This is the bit that we want to deal with our code. And then this is the tail here. So let's recreate this file as a HTML. So new file, index.html. We're going to go old school. So in the same way that this was going, hey, I'm an SVG file, we're going to go, hey, I'm a HTML file. And in here, we're going to have a head, which like our SVG file, and we're going to give it a title called My Design. And then we're going to have in the body of the HTML file, us saying traditionally, hello world. We're just going to save that. Look in the downloads folder. Here's our index HTML file. Let's create a new one of these. Drag it over there. You don't even need a web server, anything. We can open up the HTML file in our browser in the same way we open up the SVG file in our browser. Nice and straightforward, nothing fancy. But what we need is somewhere to put our SVG. So we're gonna make a text area. We'll give it an ID of target, so we can actually say, hey, this is where I want to put things. And we're going to give it some columns just to make it nice and big. Equals 40. And if we refresh this, now I've got this text area where we're going to put our SVG. Very straightforward. So in the other video, we talked about the difference between script and code. So we're going to be using a script that'll start at the top and work its way down. There we go, give ourselves a bit of space. And we want to have those 3 bits of SVG file, the head, the body, and the tail. So we're going to go const, which is a constant. This means that, hey, I have a thing is going to equal to this other thing, and that other thing isn't going to change. This is what it's always going to be. And in JavaScript, I'm going to use a backtick here, as normally you do things in quotes saying, here's some string, or I can go, here's string. But I want to have things go over a number of lines. So we have to use a backtick. And we're just going to grab this from here, this SVG here. Actually, let's grab the whole of this. And we're going to go, that is the head. Cool. We also want to have the tail, which is the bit at the end. So let's just copy and paste that from here. We're going to grab that space as well. And we're going to go, okay, that's our head and tail. This is the only slightly complicated bit. We're going to go in our document, this whole thing, document. We're going to get the element, get element by ID. And we're going to get the target. Okay, so just to tell you now, all this code is going to be up on GitHub in the repo for this whole course. There's going to be a link down below to penplotter.com, and on there, you'll find all these videos and they'll link directly to the GitHub repo. You don't need to be typing all this out. You can go and copy this code if you want, or you can do it yourself from scratch if you want to go along. So don't worry about any of the stuff I'm doing here. You can just go grab the files, okay? So here we go. And I'm going to say the inner HTML of this target, which is the stuff inside here, is going to be equal to head plus tail. And that's it. And if we go refresh this page over here, we can now see we've got our SVG in here, which is fine, but there's nothing in there. So we want one more thing, which is going to be the body. We're going to do this slightly differently. We're going to go let body equals, I'll do these ticks like this. So we're saying the body is equal to an empty string, and we're going to go body plus tail. And over here, I can't imagine anything's going to change. Now we're using let because we're saying body is equal to this, but it is actually going to change. It isn't a constant. It's going to like be variable, and we're going to keep adding stuff to it. So let's add the first path to it. Oops. There we go. Now we're going to go body plus equals. I don't generally like doing shortcuts. Normally I'd go body equals the contents of the body plus. Well, we could do that. Let's refresh over here. We've got our first path. Now I'm going to go body equals whatever is currently in the body plus this next bit. Let's grab that next line. And we're going to do the third one. Body equals whatever's currently in the body plus, well, let's do that third path there. Okay, but like I said, this gets a little bit unwieldy, so I am going to do a shortcut. I'm going to say plus equals. Plus equals, plus equals as a little bit of a shorthand, just to keep it slightly more readable. We're going to go over here and we're going to see something that I'm not keen on, which is put all of these on one line. It's not that readable. So we're going to use a little trick here, which is a backslash and an N, and that means new line. New line. You don't need to memorize all this stuff again. The code will be there. But if I just add that onto the end of each of those and refresh the page, we can see we now have this nicely down here. Let's just, what should we do here? We're just doing a little bit of cleaning up here because I'm a nerd for tidiness. Okay, that makes me feel happier. So over here, we now have our SVG file. Let's actually just get rid of that middle thing. I'm going to comment this out for the moment rather than delete it. So if I refresh this, and if I grab all of that and I go into our test SVG, and I paste that in and save it, and I refresh this, I've got rid of that middle square there. If I go back in and actually, let's comment out the first and the last one, save it, go back to my design, my HTML, refresh the page, copy that, go back over to our test SVG, paste it in, back here, no, yes, there we go. It's kind of cool. Okay, so it's a little bit fussy having to copy the text out of that text area and paste it into something else. We can carry on doing that, and I ought to, but I was 50-50 about whether I should do this next thing. I'm going to show a simpler way of saving that SVG file. It's a little bit advanced, so there's a little bit of trust me bro here, oh, I hate that face, about this code just works. You don't need to understand it. I will run through it, but it will make our life a lot easier, so I think it's worth putting in now. So let me show you that over here. Okay then, I'm going to add, just up here, another little bit of script. And here, we're going to add a button. We're going to give it the ID of save. It's going to say save on it. Actually, you know what? Put a break in there like that. If I refresh the page, it's now put the save button down here. It doesn't do anything yet because it's not wired up. We're about to wire it up, and I'm just going to paste some code in. Okay, you don't need to understand this, but I will go through it ever so slightly. So this line here is saying document, get element ID, save, getting the save button on click. When we click on it, I want you to run this function called download. I'm passing in the name my design. Up here is the actual function. So download is equal to this curly brackets here means this is a function that's going to do something. Here's the file name. This line is going to create an anchor link. This is, you know, when you click on a link, it's going to create one of those. It's going to set the attribute to the file name. So that's what we want it to save as. We're actually hiding it. So we're saying, don't bother displaying this. And we're going to attach this element that we've just created, this link, to our web page. This is the complicated bit. But what it's basically saying is the link that this goes to is actually the whole content of our text area. We're going to grab the target, the text content, we're going to turn it into this thing called a blob. Don't worry about that. But that's what this link is going to connect to. And then we're going to say, hey, we're going to click on that link, and then we're going to remove that link. So it's going to create it, stick all this stuff in it, click it, remove it, and then we're clean again. So let's see what that actually does over here. I'm going to save that. I'm going to refresh this page, and then, actually, you know what? Let's put the whole lot back in. We're going to uncomment these. Let's refresh the page. Okay, it's all back in. So if I hit this save button, it now tells me that my design has been saved. If I go over here, I can see it here, and we've created this. And then in the downloads folder, my design is here. It looks like that. And if I wanted to, I could just go and drag it over there. So that's made our life slightly easier. So just to recap what we've done here, we've got a save button and this handy script that we're just going to ignore for the moment. We're going to pretend that that doesn't exist. We're not worried about that. All we're concerned about is our script here where we've gone, hey, the head is all of this XML here that says you're an SVG file. The tail closes up the group in the SVG, and our code, the body starts blank. We're going to make one square, another square, and another square. We're going to put all of those head, body, and tail into this text area. And then this up here allows us to save it. So pretty straightforward. We haven't done anything clever or smart. We're exactly the same place where we were before. We have a test.svg file, and it's just got some squares in it. In the next video, we will then go into starting to mess around with this bit. Instead of having it all hand-coded, we're going to use some actual code, a loop, to go over that and then create lots of lines. So let's just do a recap back over there, and then we'll get on. Well, hey, congratulations. We've written our first bit of code. We've created our first SVG file with code, or you've downloaded it from the repo, or you're waiting until the next video. Either is fine. But what we have now is our own SVG file, whereas before we had to use Inkscape, we had to rely on someone else's software package to generate our SVG file, or we cranked it open by hand and we created those 3 squares by hand, which will be a pain in the ass if we wanted to do 200 of them. We now have the foundation for using code. So I know I said this before, but we had the head that won't change, the tail that won't change, and then this little bit here that we can now start manipulating with our code. We can have 200 of these, we can have 1,000 of these. They can be circles or squares and rotated and scaled and all sorts of fun stuff that we're going to do in the next set of videos. And we now have the code written to start exploring that. So it's going to be kind of fun. All right, you can skip the rest of this video if you want to move straight on to the next one. That's probably a good idea. But if you're interested to see the same code written in NodeJS or Python, stick around for the next 10-15 minutes. I'm going to go through both of them. That might be of interest to you. It's a different way of doing things. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video where we're going to do hundreds of lines and it's going to be fun. Otherwise, if you're sticking around, I'll see you back over here. Okay, we're back. Let's do all this again in another language for people who want to go through it all over again. It might be fun. You're just going to watch me noodling around with code just a little bit. I'll explain it as we go along, but you can skip the rest of this video if you want. Let's make a new file called mydesign.py, Python file. Okay, so Python, we're going to do pretty much exactly the same. In fact, let's just copy the whole of this and stick it into Python over here. It's going to contain all sorts of things. But first things first, we're just going to go ahead and then instead of this backtick in Python, if we want multi-line, we go dash, 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 3 single quotes like that. And Python is very fussy about spacing. So let's do that and 1, 2, 3, that. Okay, tail. We're going to go tail is, let's do 1, 2, 3 and 1, 2, 3. And now we're going to go body. Let's get rid of this space as well. We're going to bring all of these in. Body's equal. We're just going to use single ticks here. Let's go clean this up. Okay, well, I think that should do. So we've gone at the top, we've gone, hey, the head of our SVG looks like this. The tail of our SVG looks like this. And then the body are these 3 squares. And again, let's comment out this one. Can't remember how to do comments in, is it that? That'll probably do. We're just going to use the first square and the last square. And obviously we can't do this. We need to save it out, which is probably the only complicated bit. Let's think about this. We're going to go with open my design2.py so we can tell the difference. And we're going to say, we're going to write that file. And this is a little bit of a weird one, but encoding equals UTF-8. That's telling it that it's just a plain text file, even though, oh, what am I doing here? Even though it's an SVG file, we're saying, hey, it's just plain text, all right? We're going to say as F shorthand. I could probably do as a file, but let's do as F. Okay, F right, head plus body plus tail. Okay, we're going to go saved by design2 SVG, just so we know what's going on. And I think that's it for Python. Let's go add a terminal down here. Okay, so let's go Python 3, my design Python, saved my design 2. Let's have a quick look. My design 2, go to the downloads folder. Here's my design 2, drag it over. We've got our 2 outer squares. So that was what it looks like in Python. Again, we're dealing with text. Here is some text. Here is some more text. Now, using our code, we're going to generate some text. And then we're going to save out here. Let's do the same again in NodeJS. New file. mydesign.js. Okay, let's do the same thing again. We're just going to go in here, going to copy the whole of that, going to paste it in there. All right. Just a little bit of neatening up. Okay, cool. So Node is a little bit different. In Python, we added the save the file out at the bottom. We need to import the file managing thing up here. So let's do that here. Okay, so const fs, short for file system, equals, we're going to require node file system. Okay, so I'm going to get the whole file system. There's simpler ways to do it, but this has to happen at the top to say I want access to the file system, and then down here I'm going to go file system, right, file sync. I'm going to call my design 3.svg. We're going to go head plus body plus tail, stick them all together, and again UTF-8 to say this is a plain text file. Oh, and let's go console.log saved my design 3.svg. Okay, let's go down here and go node my design.js. Saved my design 3. Let's have a look. My design 3, exactly the same as all the other ones. Go to the downloads folder, my design 3. There we go. So just a little recap. Exactly the same thing again. We're going, here's some head, here's some tail, here's the body, stick them all together, save them out. Okay, so we've shown we can do it in a number of different languages, and we're going to do everything in the index.html with some JavaScript moving forwards because we want to be able to view it on the web page, and it's useful in the future to be able to put things up on the web where other people can use them, and that's where we could interact and things like that. The purpose of doing it in Python or Node.js is if you want to do the same thing over and over again. When we get to randomness, you might actually want to have random values, run the code, and then get it to go 100 times, 200 times, or control it on the command line. So you say, make me 100 outputs, and it saves all these SVG files, and then you come in later and look at them all and review them and go, actually, I like that one, or I like that one. So you'd do it this way in Python or Node if you wanted to automate it, in the web browser if you want to kind of interact with it. That's my way of thinking anyway. Okay, back here. All right, well, thank you very much for sticking around with those. Hopefully it's become a bit more obvious that it doesn't really matter which coding language you use. They're all pretty similar because we're just dealing with text. It's fairly straightforward, but we're not doing anything fancy. All right, I suggest that you move straight on to the next video because that will really take what we've done there and put it into practice. We're going to start using the drawing machine, so that's going to be fun. We're going to start using lots of different pens. I think the next one is going to be the one that really gets us going and ready for all of the rest of the videos. I'm really looking forward to it. All right then, thank you very much for joining me. I will see you very soon. You're all lovely and wonderful for sticking to the end. All right, see you.